Hello friends of PowerHouse Bakery and all my favorite divas and dudes out there. Thank you so much for joining me here at PowerHouse Bakery. My name is Suzanne Parker and I'm the founder of this crazy little bakery that loves to show the world that healthy can and does taste amazing. And so happy New Year. It's January of a new year and I'm so excited to share with you healthy. And so we are going to launch into a month of healthy and just looking at how do we not only decipher the diets out there. Everybody wants to start a new diet in January, but I also really want to help us all understand what does it mean to be healthy and how do we decide what is most appropriate for our healthy choices in this new year. And so today what I'm going to do is first go over a really fun recipe. Here at PowerHouse we love to show healthy foods and give you new ideas on how to combine healthy ingredients to no matter what taste good and share with your family and just have a new approach to what we're doing as far as whole grains and fresh fruits and vegetables and of course gluten-free. But, I always say here at PowerHouse Bakery, you don't have to eat gluten-free to love what we do here because our goal is to use nutritious, wholesome ingredients that just happen to be gluten-free and absolutely are healthy. So the recipe that I'm going to share with you today is called Berry Power Oats. And here at the PowerHouse Cooking School, I'm always looking for ways to really build antioxidant power, phytochemicals into our dishes. And we've been doing a Power Oats here for a long time. In fact, if you've been following our videos, it's been a while, but I showed you how to make the Power Oats. And as I'm looking into the new year and what is healthy, I wanted to do a new spin on this Power Oats. And so I named this the Berry Power Oats. And what I'm going to show you today is to really mix up the ratio of the whole grains and the fruits. We're going to be learning about an anti-inflammatory diet. Start really watching my Facebook page because I'm going to be really following this 30 Days of Healthy. And one of the really exciting sections that I'm going to cover is the cytokine storm, which, if you've been watching the news about COVID and understanding how some people are getting more sick than others with this crazy virus, it's so much to do with our immune system and how well we nourish our immune system, how we take care of our bodies and build the defense that God gave us, and that is our immune system. So we'll talk about the inflammatory foods and then how our body really uses our anti-inflammatory system to help to combat those viruses and bacteria that are out there in the world, always have been, always will be, and how does a healthy diet help to build our body to be strong and be able to fight those off. And so be in tune, not only my Facebook page, but of course I'm going to share everything I can with you guys right here in these videos. So let's get started on this wonderful little recipe. I've got some water boiling, and I'm going to add some instant oats. So I'm also going to add some berries. In this particular one, I'm adding cranberries and I am adding some cherries. Now this is kind of cool because talk about, making lemonade when you're given lemons. One of my wonderful team members, Philip, accidentally used my berries that I had preserved for this little class to make one of our berry crisps. So I said, that's okay, I'm going to figure out another item to use instead. So instead of having my fresh berries, which is what I did this morning with this same recipe, and oh my gosh, it was delicious. I thought, well, let me see what I have in my pantry. So I got this beautiful can of organic fruit-filling cherries, and I rinsed off the sugar. Now, it was still a good product. It's still all organic. It used organic sugar, but I wanted to make this recipe as close to what I did this morning is possible. So I rinsed off the sugars, and I also added the cranberries, because one of the things we want to do in creating a super healthy recipe is load it up with those antioxidant berries and keep the sugar low. When I outline the inflammation foods, you know what I'm going to say. Sugar is one of them. So look at how much berries. The whole emphasis in this recipe is we want to flip out the ratios. Normally when you have a bowl of oatmeal, you sprinkle a couple of berries on top. Not with this one. It's a lot of berries and a little bit of oats, and that's what we are shooting for here. So we've got a wonderful blend of the organic cherries and some cranberries. Did you know that cranberries are one of those superfoods loaded with antioxidants? Probably the highest vitamin C food out there. Now I'm going to add a little bit of pumpkin seeds. Now I am recommending that we use lightly salted, so I'm going to put a little bit into my mixture, and then I'm going to save a little bit to put on the top. We really could put them all in at the very end, but if it was fresh berries, instead of what I'm using in the canned and the frozen, it helps to kind of cook all the flavors together. So I'm adding a little bit of mighty seeds, just as an option. I'm adding a little bit of Himalayan sea salt, really important in this recipe. And that's because when we cut out sugar, we've got to have some other flavors. So the nice thing is when you add the salt to your oatmeal, you need a lot less sweetness to make it taste good. So there we go. That's going to cook down just a little bit, and I use the instant oats, and so it's not going to take too long to cook. I also want to add some of my PowerHouse Bakery spice, which is a blend of all those sweet spices. But if you don't have that handy, you can start with cinnamon and even a little allspice. Really excellent. Remember, when we take out sugar, we want to add in other flavors so that our palate doesn't be left wanting, right? We've got to add in a lot of kick so that we can keep all those flavors alive and interesting. So if you don't have the PowerHouse Bakery sweet spice, at least start to acquire some of the really nice all spice organic. And also be thinking about, I love this brand, the Morton and Bassett San Francisco brand, awesome. Try to get single spices. Organic is ideal, but for sure single spices, so that then you can do your own blend combinations. So that is looking great. I'm gonna add a little bit more water. Now the recipe that I'm giving you is gonna give you enough for about 3 servings. So that recipe I lovingly put at the end, share it with a couple of your friends. So when you're making this wonderful dish, either divide it out equally for 3 servings, or just know that you're not going to want to necessarily eat this all in one sitting, but it's going to be a fantastic dish. So I'm going to let this boil really light. So I had it simmering at first, and now I'm just going to lower the temperature a little bit to maybe medium low. On my particular cooktop, I've got it 4 on that scale of 1 to 10, so it's just going to simmer while I tell you a few more of these facts that I really want us to start looking at when we're going over our 30 days of healthy. Now, I picked 30 days because, typically a new habit, 21 days. When I used to work at Lifetime Fitness, we knew that January was going to be a big month. A lot of people come in and they're gung-ho for 30 days or so, and then they start to trickle off. So what I want us to do is build 30 days of healthy learning principles. We're going to learn about different diets that are out there and really understand how do we build a healthy immune system. Because let's face it, having a healthy diet is going to help us build a strong body. And if we have a strong immune system, we can fight off the environmental allergens, but we also keep that inflammatory response in check. So what is a healthy plan that the body has, which is the inflammatory response, can sometimes get out of check. So if you have allergies, that's an example of an oversensitive immune system. Our body builds histamines, and we have runny nose and itchy eyes and coughing and sneezing because those histamines are overly sensitive to the environment. We're still not really sure why our body wants to overreact to things, But the fact is it does. And so stay tuned, because I'm going to be explaining more and more about the inflammatory response and the cytokines. But today I want to really focus on some great foods, because let's face it, in this first month of 2021, we want to know how to eat healthy and how to really enjoy what we're eating, and really be able to think clearly how we're going to sift through some of the diet information that's out there. So when we look at an anti-inflammatory food, I kind of looked through the research out there, and you know me, I always love to look at the internet and see what is the expert opinion that's kind of floating out there. So an anti-inflammatory food is going to vary. In general, you'll see different information regarding these good foods, and you're going to guess it. It's going to be fruits and vegetables. It's going to be lean meats, maybe cutting out dairy. Sometimes you'll see a recommendation to cut out key foods, and that oftentimes will be sugar, non-nutritive sweetener like saccharin and even ideal and erythritol. You'll also see cutting out maybe caffeine, maybe eggs, foods that our body tends to have an allergic reaction to. So again, there's going to be some vague understanding of what is an anti-inflammatory food. But in general, we know that the foods that we want to include are going to be promoters of health. Most of the research will always point towards the Mediterranean diet. And that is kind of my old favorite to teach with. It's going to really stand the test of time. We know that minimum use of sugars is at the very top of that pyramid. Also, meats are going to be at the very top of that pyramid. But sugars are going to be key. And what we mean by meats is the high-fat meats. So then we move down the ladder a little bit, and we know that eggs and dairy are sometimes going to be inflammatory foods, again, because they can be a typical food allergen. So that's why they get they're higher up on that pyramid. We want to minimize our use of them, or at least be aware if our body has a negative response to it. Then, very unique in the Mediterranean diet, right in the center is olive oil. So olive oil is one of those miracle foods. It has a wonderful blend of the monounsaturates, the polyunsaturates, and saturated fats that really work well in the human body. Again, it's lasted through millennia as being a great food source and helping to support large people groups in a pretty healthy way of life. You know, we've studied the Mediterranean eating style and tried to figure out what is it about their eating pattern that has helped them stay remarkably healthy through the ages. And we're pretty sure that olive oil is paramount in their eating style. Next down the line is going to be fruits and vegetables. So hands down, fruits and veggies and nuts and seeds get the base of that Mediterranean diet. And so when we think of the majority of our foods, we absolutely want to eat fruits and veggies and nuts and seeds. Now, when I put veggies there, of course that also includes all plants from the earth. So grains that are whole grains that are grown in a healthy soil are absolutely part of that base. So I know sometimes it gets complicated when we think of are grains a good food or a bad food, whether they're gluten-free or not. So again, there's going to be some individual differences based on how our body responds. So that's why I really wanted to start with looking at a food pyramid that helps us kind of get perspective of where our preferences and really our diet type will fall. And so somewhere in this paradigm, we know that sugars need to be decreased. We know that meats should be used sparingly rather than the center of the plate. We know that eggs and dairy are fine as part of a healthy diet, but we're going to have to figure out what concentration in our daily intake is going to be most valuable for our own bodies. And then, of course, the plant-based kingdom is absolutely king when we're looking at super healthy. And so when we look at a dish like the Berry Power Oats, what I've really tried to do is focus on fruits, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. Anytime you experiment with an eating style, I always want us to go back to what has tested time. So if we look at a diet that is high in meats and bacon and cheese, hoping to cut down sugars, there's value in the idea, that is, to cut down sugars. But there's probably not a blanket statement that we could say people in general will do better if they increase their protein via meats and cheeses and eggs and bacon. So I'm alluding to one of the popular diet types that's out there right now, the keto diet. Remember, its main goal is to help you decrease sugars in the diet. And so that's what we always want to go towards, is what is a diet type trying to help us learn about. And so we'll keep delving into this as we go. But let's suffice to say that an anti-inflammatory diet is going to be rich in plant foods. It's going to be rich in leafy greens. It's going to be rich in nuts and seeds. And what I like to say too is when we look at fats, of course olive oil is important in the cooking process, but whenever you can chew the fat, that's going to make it a healthy option. Meaning that we want to cut back on oils as much as we can, using olive oil as the primary source of cooking medium when we need it. And then whenever you can, add in chewable fats. And so nuts and seeds and avocado are great examples of just that. So we know that when we have a good source of plant foods, we are helping to build the immune system. We know that a strong immune system needs to have building blocks for cell integrity and enzyme systems. And so whenever we can build a strong immune system, we know we need to have essential amino acids, we know we have to have essential fatty acids, and we have to have some complex sugars. And so when I mean complex sugars, those are really coming from the plant kingdom. So instead of refined sugar, we want to minimize that, and instead we want to use fruits as a sweetener. And if we need to, we could certainly add a little bit of a sweetener like honey or agave. But really, this year, try to train your palate to enjoy less sweet. And again, that's why we're really playing with recipes like we are today, to see how we can add flavor and appeal to a dish without adding sugar. So again, you're going to use your fresh berries, quick cook oats, a little sea salt, and now we've got our nuts that we add in, and I'll tell you what, it's a great approach to a healthy dish. Let's check our little oatmeal and see how we're doing. This looks absolutely gorgeous. So it's loaded with berries, and that's exactly what I wanted it to be. It's so rich in berries that it turned bright red, and that's what I want to have you see. So instead of sprinkling on a few berries, we're going to flip it around and have at least as much berries that we add in as the oats. And so that is a great dish. And then I'm going to add a few more nuts and seeds on the top. So gone are the days when we think of eating low calorie, while calories are still something that we want to use in our evaluation process. What we do want to instead think about is how do we get the most bang for our buck in a meal. Number one thing, get hungry before you eat. Don't eat by the clock. Number two is pick out foods that are a powerhouse of nutrition, loaded with minerals, loaded with protein, amino acids, and of course, making sure that we have some good glucose sources. And that's perfect when we think of either gluten-free oats or just a run-of-the-mill oats. It's a great source of protein that's even just part of that grain. And so you don't have to add in protein powder. Really, there's plenty of protein right there. So if you saw my videos long ago where I showed you all the Power Oats, I still stand by it. I think it's a great product, but I want us to investigate ways to eat as pure and clean as we can, meaning cut out processed foods and see if you can use just real foods. And that is absolutely where that Mediterranean diet style is coming from, and it's going to be the best way to build the amino acids, the essential minerals, as well as the essential fats right into our system to help build the immune system. And so while I close, I just want to give you one more little tidbit. If we think of what I've just been describing as those really good immune builders, let's just make a quick list of the inflammatory foods. So those foods out there that actually might exacerbate an immune system that's not healthy. So it causes an oversensitive immune system. And here they are. So inflammation causing foods. And I put it in quotes because, again, it'll depend a lot on the amount that we eat. Of course, that's key in so many things. And of course, there's some individual variances, i.e., if you have a food allergy, we know that's going to be an inflammation food because your body sees it as a foreign invader. So more on that in the next time. But let's definitely hit the big players in this inflammation response. So number one, we know is refined sugars. So remember, the complex carbohydrates that we get from fruits and vegetables and whole grains do have sugars. It's just that they're encapsulated in a lot of nutrients. When we eat oats and blueberries and cherries and cranberries, they have minerals and fiber and protein as part of that food, rather than a refined sugar that would be bleached and have no nutrients added to it. Okay, so number one inflammatory food is probably sugar. The next one is going to be probably chemicals. So diet sweeteners. We know from history that people that consume diet sweeteners are hooked on them. There's a very interesting phenomenon that when people start drinking diet sodas or adding the yellow packet or the red packet to their tea, they gradually use more and more, meaning their palate gets less and less sensitive to it, so they need more to enjoy that sweet flavor. And we find that people are not healthier, and we're pretty sure that something's going on in their body that's making it a toxin. So diet sweeteners and chemicals. So the more we can pick foods that are free of chemicals, the better. So if we were to pick a processed meat from the deli counter versus a nice clean whole chicken that we're going to roast, what we're going to pick is the whole chicken. Not a rotisserie chicken, but one that you can cook and add the ingredients to yourself. That's going to avoid those inflammatory chemicals that we are pretty sure cause an invasion and an assault to our immune system. Number three might be other chemicals like caffeine. Again, if you're sensitive to it, and then food types. So again, I'm going to put some question marks here because some people are going to have a very sensitive immune response to dairy. That will be the case for some and not all. Also eggs. But we know also that meats are oftentimes inflammatory because the animal is high on the food chain. So he has been exposed to a lot of potential chemicals too, which become part of his meat or his flesh. So in summary, what I want to do for the next 30 days is share with you some great foods that are part of that Mediterranean pyramid. Eat close to the earth, start thinking about what can I do to fuel a healthy immune system and of course a healthy body. And then how do we take out the inflammation causing foods? And so I want you to be really aware of your body and what kinds of responses foods have on your body. Because again, when we create your best foods list, we want to know that customized approach to making your best diet plan. And always thinking about the amounts of foods definitely have a big impact on how our body responds to those foods. So I hope this helped. I hope you love this little recipe, and send me a picture. I'd love to know what berries you chose and what your family thinks about it. There's nothing wrong with adding a little bit of sweetener, but I would say use a very small amount at the end of cooking to see how little you can do and still allow it to taste great. The berries that you choose will be the foreground or the base of all the flavor and spice. And then adding a little cinnamon or your own sweet spice will be a great way to just tip the scales in flavor. So I hope this helps, and I can't wait to see you again. Don't forget to check me out on my Facebook page, because I'll be giving lots of fun information in the next 30 days of healthy. We'll see you soon.